Nivad Cabral kept saying this is a liquidity issue. Once tourism comes back, everything will be okay. All nonsense, absolute bunkum. And obviously, PB didn't advise properly either, in my view, because here we have a liquidity issue, in a massive debt overhang problem. So we need to resolve the debt issue. You see, the liquidity issue is something that needs to be done anyway, but the debt issue is a solvency problem, which was not understood by these people and still haven't understood it. So why it is man-made is actually three things. One is the absurd tax cut, right? The second thing is trying to hold the currency at 200 and destroying everything, from 200 it has gone to almost 280 now. And the third thing on the real economy is a unimaginable overnight banning of fertilizer. So those are all man-made. Those are all man-made. Anyone who would have had the sort of foresight to have wide consultations before these three things were done would have saved the country from this misery. A day late, a dollar short, because they should have done this a long time back. If they did so when they realized that they were having not just a liquidity problem, but a solvency problem, a toxic combination of the two, they should have been advised appropriately. Nivad Cabral kept saying this is a liquidity issue. Once tourism comes back, everything will be okay. All nonsense, absolute bunkum. And obviously, PB didn't advise properly either, in my view, because here we have a liquidity issue, in a massive debt overhang problem. So we need to resolve the debt issue. You see, the liquidity issue is something that needs to be done anyway, but the debt issue is a solvency problem, which was not understood by these people and still haven't understood it. First of all, we would never have gone for that ridiculous tax cut. You see, Dr. Roshan Pereira wrote in your newspaper, I think, 500 billion rupees a year. That is $1 trillion in 2 years of lost revenue. I mean, it's inconceivable how you can lose so much money and still continue to have fiscal discipline. So obviously, they thought that this modern monetary theory business would work. First of all, it was misinterpreted. If you read the book by Stephanie Kelton, she restricts the possibility, even in the short term, for countries with hard currencies, not countries that don't have currency that is accepted globally, right? So that caused a huge issue. They tried to fill the tax void with printed money, and that created absolute havoc, right? And prices went up, inflation is galloping. Since Gotabaya Rajapaksa came, probably it is now around maybe 40% at least on food. And if you take out food and fuel, and look at what is called the core inflation, which is what is driven by the monetary policy, that is probably around 15% now, which just goes to show how irresponsible monetary policy has been. Printed so much money that money supply has gone up by 40% since the arrival of the Rajapaksas. Obviously, we need to put this right. So there are two things we need to do. One is you have to have a stabilization program, And the stabilization program would entail not just adjusting one variable, because you must realize this is a connected ecosystem. So you have to look at the exchange rate, then you have to look at the monetary policy and fiscal policy together. Then you have to look at unshackling the economy so that the benefits of prudent exchange rate management and monetary policy can translate into real activity in the economy. And hopefully you can run what is called a undervalued real exchange rate, which gives exporters leg up or additional incentive in competitiveness amongst others to actually increase exports. So that is the short to medium term game plan on a stabilization program. The reform has to start thereafter, which really means to direct the country from this silly notion of import substitution and self-sufficiency to export driven, creating an export driven economy. So this is what I have been talking about for a long time: break down the walls, build bridges. Let us get into what are called global production networks, and just make sure that the reforms are done, institutional reforms are done, so that there is a platform that exporters can actually benefit from. Because currently, producing for the domestic market, according to a paper I read by Professor Premchandatu Koral the other day, is about 70% more profitable than getting into the export market. So why would anybody go there? The president has still not understood the problem the way I see it, because he said yesterday he's going to talk to our lenders to find ways to repay annual loan installments. That is a very simplistic understanding of the problem. Solvency is a much bigger issue. That is, we have a massive debt overhang, like I said, and we are unable to meet our debt obligation over a period of time. So what it means is we have to restructure our debt. I mean, come out and say it. If you understand it, that would be good for the markets to sort of reset their thinking, so that they would start building confidence in the market, because ultimately it is the confidence that investors have in Sri Lanka's ability to continue as a solvent country that will bring in investments and exporters bring in the money back and so on. And also the president didn't sort of indicate to the viewers that he realized that IMF cannot lend to Sri Lanka under these given circumstances unless it agrees with the bondholders and other bilateral lenders on a debt restructuring program, which would either A, mean reprofiling, meaning pushing back the dues, or B, having a haircut, meaning cutting off some of what is due, or A and B together. So both have to happen sort of parallelly. So it's a chicken and an egg situation. Without an IMF agreement that Sri Lanka would promise the IMF they would live responsibly, stop printing money, stop spending hundreds of billions of rupees on local government elections type of thing. And if IMF agrees, and then if the bondholders are comfortable with that game plan, then they will say, okay, we are willing to restructure. If they say they are willing to restructure, then the IMF can put money into Sri Lanka. So both have to happen together. It depends on how long these people take to really appreciate the problem and start acting on it meaningfully. Say you start today and you say, look, we accept that we are insolvent, so which is a very tough thing to do, right? It hurts our national pride. For 73 years, this has never happened to us. And it is so unfortunate that the Rajapaksas and the Cabrals and the Jasundaras and all these people, was not able to figure out what the problem was and then take appropriate steps at the time, and put people into such misery. Now, so once you come to that point and sort of honestly accept where we are, which we haven't still done, then we have to engage international firms who would have the capability to speak to the different creditors. There are three types of creditors: the senior creditors, IMF, World Bank, ADB, then the Paris Club creditors, that is Japan and other bilaterals, and of course the bondholders, mutual funds, hedge funds, insurance funds, those guys, and then come up with the game plan going forward. Now, having spoken with some people who've actually done this in other countries, my understanding is first you need to get a consent solicitation done, and it probably will take, depending on how proactive a nation is, maybe 2 months or so, perhaps even less than that. Once that is done, then you can start suspending payments, and then depending on, like I said, the willingness of the country to be transparent, willingness of the country to accept the gravity of the situation, you're probably looking at another 5-6 months. So you're looking at, in my view, if the country is willing to cooperate with all stakeholders, you're looking at about, 7-8 months. You see, Sri Lanka is a small country at the end of the day. It's only 22 million people, smaller than a lot of the major cities in India. And if you look at South India, in particular Tamil Nadu, and see how Stalin is running that state, and if you look at the number of factories that are opening up, the number of jobs that are getting created, the number of foreign investors who are coming from, high tech to manufacturing to everyone, you will see that if you have a good plan and if you have credibility, people will come, they will invest, and they will start producing for consumption beyond the borders of that state or country. So it is possible. It is absolutely possible. And what we have done is I have basically drafted a blueprint which I am working with Iran and Kabir, which we will, after discussing with, finalizing with Sajid also, we will start engaging various groups of people from the top to the bottom. And we are basing our model on what is called a social market economy, which means that we believe 100% in markets and in competition, and in creating competitiveness, meaning increasing productivity, efficiency in the systems on the one hand. And on the other hand, we believe in social justice. So that don't forget that 20% of this country's people enjoy over 50% of the wealth that is created annually, and the bottom 20% only has got 5% left for them, right? So there is a massive discrepancy here, massive inequality. So that needs to be addressed, and we believe that addressing it in Basil Rajapaksa style or previous Mahinda Rajapaksa style is not going to work. It hasn't worked, right? So that is why we are thinking anew, and we have some really innovative ideas that deals with social justice at the bottom, which we will start discussing with people. So it's a sort of economic liberalism on the one hand and a political liberalism on the other hand. So that's what we are planning to do. See, the reason for asking President to resign is the theme of the protest was hashtag go home Gotha. So if that is the theme, you have to ask Gotha to go home, right? So it is a natural ending to the tens of thousands of people who came out, many of them voluntarily, you know, some of them who came with organizers from around various districts. And so, because the thing is, with the 20th Amendment, you know, he has concentrated power in his office, right? And Parliament has just become a mere rubber stamp. So therefore, even if we get rid of the government of Mr. Rajapaksa, if Mr. Rajapaksa still hangs around, you know, and he makes decisions outside of Parliament, you know, I mean, who made the decision on fertilizer? Who made the decision on cutting taxes? Who made the decision on holding the currency at 200 and creating this absolute havoc? Not Parliament. He made the decision, right? So therefore, unless, I mean, it's a long shot, obviously, we ask him to leave, you know, he's not going to leave, but you know, we need to create a situation that we have the office of the president, if this system continues, right, assuming that system continues. If not, you know, have a powerful government within a Westminster system. So. See, there are two things that one need to sort of be, you know, professionally, what's the word I'm looking for, they should be able to accept, right, at a professional level, two issues. One is that, you see, after the war, the country's growth sort of galloped, you know. By 2012, it was at 9.2%. But even at the time, we were critical that this was debt-fueled growth, right? Borrowing from China, building this, building that, building the other thing, boom, cement, construction, steel, you know, everything. And then suddenly, they couldn't borrow anymore. Boom, 2013, growth fell to 3.5%, from 9.2% to 3.5%. From 2013, it hasn't, you know, it has hovered around 3%, 4%, 5%, 2.5%, you know, minus 3.5%, etc. So our growth path is here. So we need to actually have what I call a structural shift in the growth path, you know, by, you know, at least, you know, 5 percentage points up. Right? So in order to do that, that is why I said you have to do all these reforms that I mentioned. Now, when I say, or when others say it is man-made, what is meant is, yes, we were not in the best sort of place to be, because we, like I said earlier, we had a large debt problem. We had dwindling government revenues and expanding deficits. Balance of payments was on shaky ground. Government can have any control over, because it's legacy coming from the past. And then it was on the upward trend. So why it is man-made is actually three things. One is the absurd tax cut, right? The second thing is trying to hold the currency at 200 and destroying everything, you know, from 200 it has gone to almost 280 now. And the third thing on the real economy is unimaginable overnight banning of fertilizer. So those are all man-made. Those are all man-made. anyone who would have had the sort of foresight to have wide consultations before these three things were done would have saved the country from this misery. Yeah, like I said, it's a short, medium, and a long-term plan. I'll give you two examples. One is Bangladesh. As recently as few years back, just before I joined politics, when I was consulting with ADB and World Bank and places like that. I used to go to Bangladesh all the time. Sometimes when I get off the plane, if it is the the air bridge, and then you are inside the air-conditioned airport, and you come outside, boom, the air hits you, and you feel sort of nauseous, because the air quality is so bad. But see how that country is growing. Once I was asked to give a talk with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The meeting was supposed to be at 4. I was there, State Minister from India was there, and I think a State Minister from Pakistan was there. She came right on time at 4 o'clock. No lighting lamps, no singing songs, no berakaryas and natukaryas, no frills, just regular chairs and tables. Came, delivered the speech, got it done, went away, right? That is the efficiency at which that country is operating, without a single deep water port. Look at how much these guys are exporting, and it is embarrassing actually, and kind of saddening to see how they are doing as opposed to us. And the other is Vietnam. In 1995, Sri Lanka and Vietnam both exported $3.5 billion worth of goods. Now, President says he is going to export, I think, 12 or 13 billion for this year. Vietnam last year exported 336 billion. Why? Because they opened the country to the world, because they have entered into so many trade agreements, they have unilaterally brought down their restrictive trade and investment policies, they have brought down their border tariffs, they have become part of global manufacturing networks. So they are looking outwards, right? So that is what SAB wants to do, and that is where we are going. So they don't have any foreign exchange problem, they don't have any problem of insolvency. For crying out loud, we went and borrowed $200 million from Bangladesh, right? So we have a plan and we will do it. Yeah, I mean, these are professionals, well respected, they've been asked to join, and several people spoke to me also and said, look, Harsha, this has nothing to do with politics, the president has asked and we are going to join, which is the right thing to do. But then what Milinda Rajapaksa is trying to do, hashtag we are with Gotha, and put these faces there, I don't think is prudent, I don't think it is ethical, right? Because this is not a political setup. This is not the Vietmaga that promoted Gotha Rajapaksa for president, even though there are some of them in here, right? So I mean, for the sake of the country, I hope President Rajapaksa and his cabinet and the subcommittee, whatever, would listen to these people. I mean, look at the names, they're all excellent people. Now, the question is, what the hell happened to Vietmaga? Where are they? These are the guys who are supposed to advise, right? So does it mean that Vietmaga is no more?